Welcome to today's episode of the Swine Web podcast, where we dive into the latest trends shaping the swine industry. I'm Rachel Fishback, and today we're exploring how innovation in construction and equipment is shaping the future of swine production. Joining us today are two industry experts, Chris Smith from Ag Property Solutions, bringing the builder's perspective, and Dwight Neighbor from AP, representing the equipment and technology side. Chris and Dwight, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Chris, let's start with you. What are some of the key construction trends we're seeing in 2025, and how is Ag Properties helping producers navigate these changes?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing for going into 2025 is just the amount of work that is out there. As far as trends on the swine industry, I think we've seen it predominant over the last 10 years. Just larger facilities. They're getting bigger and a lot more animals under one roof line. So that's one trend that will continue for 2025. On that note, we're seeing, I like to go back 10, 15, 20 years even. And, a big facility on the swine side for farrowing, in the mid 90s was a 1,200 head sow unit. Today, those facilities are 10 to 15, 16,000 animals under one unit. So that is definitely a trend that will continue for 2025. And as far as, helping our customers along through navigate that whole construction process and evaluation of what construction materials and products to use, it's openly sharing that information with them. Giving them the pros and cons of traditional construction methods versus some of the new technologies and building construction methods that are available today. So it's really having a broad discussion and understanding where our end user and customer, where they want to be. And just a few of those things, which we'll touch on in a little more detail here as we go throughout the interview today. But I think some of the biggest impacts of things that Ag Property Solutions brings to a table interacting with the customer is just helping them navigate those decisions that they are going to make. With the larger facilities, there's a lot more design and upfront engineering work that is required. Sharing some of those pros and cons and working through the end user on those facilities is key for us and establishing that relationship. Also, we talk about the investment in technologies and equipment because the industry has definitely evolved and continues to bring better and more advanced product offerings to the table. So just educating the end user on what some of those options are and how they could benefit their operation that they're looking at. The other thing, too, is just looking at pros and cons of the looking at total cost of ownership and what are some of those decisions they could make on product offerings for their facility. Things, as far as just energy efficient options. And a lot of that starts with our value rating as we're building the facility and during the construction phase. So I think that's a big one to bring out right away. And then just the opportunity to look at the technologies that are available. I mean, a lot of these farms are not 1 or 2 miles away from home base. They might be, whether they're 5 miles or 500 miles away from home base, having that option to monitor and to have a snapshot at any point in time if you've got good internet service is a big selling point. So I think those are all things that we at Ag Property Solutions like to discuss openly with our customers and answer as many questions as we possibly can.
One of the big decisions producers face, whether to remodel an existing barn or build new, what are factors that they should consider?
I think one of the biggest factors is looking at the cost. I mean, the cost just in the last 5 years, and I'm just going to use a 2,400 head finishing facility as an example. I mean, in 2020, we were right around that $294 a pig space, $294 to $302. today's cost, we're looking at about $450 per pig space. So to navigate through with the customers, to looking at, hey, what are the biggest impacts and drivers of that? And if you're going to remodel a facility, what is that facility still worth? And we are seeing some of that as far as a trend going into 2025. Older aging facilities, just repurposing those. We had an opportunity to work with a handful of customers, potential customers that are looking at older aging facilities and repurposing them. Maybe it was one of those 1,200 head farrowing facilities that I referenced earlier, just repurposing that and converting it to finishing space. And from a numbers standpoint, that 450 a space building new, you can remodel and invest in the necessities on that older facility and be in that $200 to $225 a space. So that may work for a lot better for the customer, and it might work a lot better if there's a financial institution involved where you need some financial backing and support to get the thing up and rolling. So it's a couple $100 pig space less. So that's one thing that is interesting going into 2025 here, because there are some older facilities that still would have quite a bit of value, especially when you compare it to new construction.
I think with the remodeling side of things, I don't think we all anticipated our hog buildings to be able to be remodeled, when we built them 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think it's really neat to see the innovation that all of these people are using in remodeling hog barns and keeping it going for the farms.
Yeah, no, it's definitely great to see an aging facility get brought back into full production and operation. So love to see that.
Dwight, turning to the equipment side of things, what are some of the major trends that you're seeing in swine production and automation for 2025?
Thank you, Rachel. But I think Chris touched on it here a minute ago. It's about automation and remote connectivity. And we've seen that trend over the last, really over maybe about the last 5 to 7 years. It's about information, gathering that information as quickly as you can. You hear a lot today about in other industries out here in the world and in the news about AI. We haven't stepped into that world yet, or at least I haven't been informed we have. But it's remote connectivity and gathering that information as quickly as we can and making decisions based off of that information that we're seeing to help our producers and customers be as efficient and cost-effective as possible and as quickly as possible.
Producers hear a lot about the automation. How are innovations like the AP Connect, Edge 2, and Commander fans helping swine barns become smarter and more efficient?
I'll start with the Edge system there that you mentioned, Rachel. The Edge system has been out now, ventilation control system has been out almost 10 years. I believe we introduced the Edge 1 back in 2015 at the World Pork Expo. We just came out here in the last couple of years with what we call the Edge 2 system. It's basically, it works on the same principle. It's just a faster speed, more user-friendly control now. It operates more like your cell phone than the previous Edge 1 system did. But what that Edge system allows that producer to do is get an insight into what's going on in his facilities, what's going on with the environment as far as temperature, humidity, static pressure, anything that involves the environment going on in your building. You can see that standing in front of the control, or you can see it on vacation in the Bahamas, whatever. You can see it on your phone, your tablet, your computer. You've got access to that information remotely and right now. It's all in real time. With the Edge 2, and we brought out some features that weren't always available with the Edge 1. You've got your standards of, you can see your temperatures, your average temperatures daily. You can get reports for all of that information on a daily basis, a weekly basis, whatever you want to do when you set it up. But you can also set up different scenarios. Let's say now with Edge 2, you can set up a scenario where I might be out, a guy with a couple 2,400 head finishers out in the middle of Iowa. It's fall time. He's out harvesting, but the crew shows up to pump out his pits. Well, instead of letting them get on access or have access to his controls, ventilation, now that producer can from his phone turn on what we call a scenario, hit a button, and turn on a certain amount of equipment. Whether that's a couple of fans and open the ceiling inlets or open some curtains, he can do that all remotely, and he doesn't have to drive back to the farm to do it. Other things with an edge system, we're consistently monitoring or always monitoring amp draws on our motors, our fan motors, our current machines, our inlet machines. We're constantly monitoring that. If they get out of a range, high or low, you're going to get a notification that something is wrong, possibly with that piece of equipment. It sends you a trouble over your phone, either SMS, text message, or by email, saying, "Hey, you need to probably take a look at this." So it can help us from a maintenance standpoint. We can pinpoint things that need to be looked at. Also, if a piece of equipment stops working, it will actually send you an alarm if it may be jeopardizing pig life. So that it notifies you right away, "Hey, you need to take care of this or take a good look at this." With the troubles, though, they're not life-threatening. The piece of equipment is still working. But hey, from a maintenance standpoint, better, somebody needs to take a look at this before it becomes a real problem. That remote connectivity, like I said, you've got access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always, everything's available to see. Now, with AP Connect, we've just come out with this. We've had ventilation controls such as the Expert Series controls, like your VT110s, your PN110s, your Series 2s. Those have been are out and available and have been of great control for 15 plus years. And also that TC5 line, which is your real basic ventilation control, that's been out for 20 plus years, probably 25. But the downfall to those are you don't have any remote access, or until today, you haven't had any remote access. With adding what we call a legacy card to those controls, now we have visibility into that control remotely. You can see your average temperatures. You can see individual temperature probes. You can see if you got a water meter connected to it, what your water consumption is. If you would happen to have your feed lines attached to your control to run off a timer, you can see the run times on your feed system. If you have a humidity sensor or a static pressure sensor, you can see that information as well, along with your heater run times. This is all very good information to be able to see again, know before you go. I can see that information sitting at the breakfast table or at the coffee shop before I ever head out to the farm. I can decide if I need to go to barn 1 or barn 2 or barn 10 first, if I've got that many barns. I can see that information and go there first. It doesn't go into as much detail as the edge system. We can't see amp draws and those things, but we can see trends. All of that information, like your temperatures, your humidity, your static pressure, even your run times on your heaters, we can graphically see that on an hourly basis, as well as a 7-day running cycle in a graphical form to help you make decisions. Maybe, my water usage dropped way off or it went real high. Maybe I got a water leak going on in that building or something to that effect. But it's some information that helps you make decisions before you ever get to the barn. And also now, in the expert controls, like the Edge, we've got some remote capabilities of command and control. If you think you need to reset your set point in that building, you have that capability remotely on your phone or on your tablet to change that set point, as well as my minimum vent speeds on my minimum vent fans. I can change those remotely. My start-stop temperatures all on my heaters And on all of my fan stages in the VT110 and Expert Series 2, I can change those remotely if I feel it's necessary. So it brings that 20-year-old control into the 21st century to a certain degree. Gives you remote access, gives you visibility into what's going on in that barn. When it comes to the Commander fans, we've had these out for a couple of years, probably about 4 years with the 36-inch fan. We started with it. It's a variable frequency drive motor on the fan, which means that it has a permanent magnet motor, and we can vary now that 36-inch fan with a 0 to 10 output on your control. We can variable that all the way down to 20-30% if we feel it's necessary. We came out with that one about 4 years ago. The 24 and the 54 have come along here in the last couple of years. So now those fans are much, much more efficient than your normal off-the-shelf type of motor or fan that uses standard motor or belt drive motor. They are much more efficient, and they perform at a higher CFM rate than our normal fans as well. So they offer some advantages from the standpoint of I can possibly reduce the number of fans in my building. We're in that remodel project, and maybe I had 8 fans in that building. Now I can maybe reduce down to 7 or 6, possibly, and still get the same efficiencies or the CFM abilities that I had before with less fans. The other thing is you can replace fan for fan if you wanted to, and get more CFMs or the same amount of CFMs. But where these fans really shine are when they are running less than 100%. Your electric usage goes down much quicker, or by a substantial amount, and reduce your electrical use on those fans.
Chris, a small investment, it can go a long way with keeping your barns going and barn improvements. Can you talk about the return of investment or ROI of these upgrades for farmers?
Yeah, I think, a couple of easier ones, or ones that I think have the quickest return on an investment are, I like to use the water pan versus water cups. A lot of these older facilities were originally built with water cups in for watering the animals. And water pans aren't anything new. A lot of producers and growers that we work with have installed them, but just installing that water pan and removing the cup, you're looking at a smaller investment. Depends. In perspective, it's a small investment. We're looking at approximately, it'd be on a 2,400 head finishing facility. We'd be looking at approximately an $18,000 investment. That's all in. Old stuff out, new water pans in, installed, the labor. And you're looking at a 35% reduction in water, increased nutrient value. So if you're a row crop guy that also has livestock, and you're raising pigs, that is I'm not even going to try to put a number on that, because the guys that are doing it really do see the benefit that way. But yeah, it's a better product that's coming out in spring or fall whenever they decide to pump their pits. And then the other thing I would add is, it's lower energy costs, right? That well pump is running less often throughout the day, because any water that's on a fence line that's when that pigs run into it, it's not splashing out. It has a little more retention there. So, that's less wear and tear on one of many pieces of equipment within your facility. So I just look at that as that's kind of a slam dunk, no brainer. But we'll see. The other ones are maintenance and upkeep of your feed delivery system. And when you've got a barn full of pigs, if that feed system needs to be reliable, it is the piece of equipment, much like the ventilation system. It's running 24/7. So the importance of investing in that is small in the grand scheme of things. The feed control units, the flex auger and the PVC, That's a minimal investment to keep maintaining optimally. And I think, we've all been around the countryside. I've got a barn myself where it's there's some duct tape on the PV sweeps coming into the barn, right? But taking advantage of downtime in between turns, I think that's the best bang for your buck there. Say, hey, I've got the time right now. I'm not being reactive, because here in another couple of weeks, we'll probably really get itching to be out in the field. And that's when that feed line will decide to let loose. So, and there are some new product offerings that are available today on the feed delivery system that you don't need to do a complete overhaul, but they do help with the efficiency and probably the feed flow is I'm most encouraged with some of the developments that AP has come out with just here in the last year and a half, 2 years, that I'm a firm believer work and assist in that feed delivery reliability.
Dwight, how does the right equipment enhance efficiency and help producers make smarter investment choices from the AP standpoint?
Well, Chris kind of nailed it there with the feed delivery system. AP has come out here in the last couple of years with a new unloader, or what some people might call a weldment body that goes underneath your bin, connects to your flex auger to, take the feed into the bin. We've developed an unloader called an XD and an XD Ultra unloader that is all the pieces are replaceable. It is not welded as one piece anymore. And like I said, we come out with that here a few years ago. The XD Ultra is, and what Chris was talking about as far as flowability, it is 50% wider than your normal unloader. Now, we go with the XD, will fit on your existing boots that are on your bins. And if you want to replace the entire boot and then go with a 50% wider to hopefully increase your flowability, go with the XD Ultra. But again, all the pieces of that unloader are replaceable. So if you're replacing an unloader, an old welded loader, and even ours, we still offer that, but our competitors are still only offering welded unloaders. If you're replacing those unloaders every maybe 1, 2, 3 years, even going with this XD or XD Ultra that was going to be a little bit more expensive up front, over time, if you're not having to replace it, it's going to have a better return on investment. Also in those unloaders, we have replaced the normal wear parts with reinforced nylon fiberglass, and those being the connector for the PVC tube connector and the wear plate underneath where the auger runs all the time. Those have been replaced with that reinforced nylon fiberglass. Should last 4 times or longer than a galvanized unloader. I've actually had some in over 2 years and taken those pieces out, and you can't hardly tell the difference between a new and an old one. So instead of replacing maybe, and I'm just throwing numbers out, $100 unloader, maybe you only have to replace a part that it costs you less than $30 and less time to install it. So there's a big savings there that can be had. Going back to the Commander fans, now as far as efficiency, I had one producer that I think I told you put in 2 fans or Commander fans in one side. Maybe I did. Commander fans. He had 4 buildings. On 2 buildings, he put 4 Commander fans, and on the other 2 buildings, he put in standard fans. After putting one group through it, he came back and said, "Man, I wished I'd put those Commander fans on all my buildings because of the cost savings in electrical usage on a monthly basis." So there's some real advantages when it comes to the Commander fan.
Sustainability is a growing focus in ag. Chris, I know Ag Property Solutions and AP recently completed the first all-steel swine facility in the U.S. Can you guys talk about the benefits of steel construction?
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and Dwight can chime in here too. But I think the benefits, I mean, I touched on it earlier when we kicked off today's podcast with just the size of the facilities, right? And wood structures have limitations on spans and the footprint. And steel does as well. It's just the spacing and the distances are much greater with steel. We can span larger distances without having obstructions placed in our pig space or pig area. So it does allow for a cleaner, neater look. It's quicker from a construction standpoint versus traditional wood. They do go up about 30% quicker. I mean, we had a little bit of a learning curve here doing the first ones a couple of years ago, but we've got a pretty good system down now, and we're feeling confident that from a timing standpoint, during that phase of construction, during the erection of the building, we should be able to shave off about 30% of our time on a comparable building. The other thing I will say is just with that, the spacing of the structural steel, we're 4 and 5 times greater on the spacing. So the fit and finish and cleanliness, I would say, in the building, inside in the animal space is one thing. Just from a sanitation and airflow through the building standpoint, that is definitely an advantage that steel brings to the table. The other thing, if you're in the attic space, if you have a filtered facility, which the ones that we worked on and constructed here a couple of years ago, they were wide open, clean space, less obstruction, so getting air up into the attic so it can be filtered before it gets down to the animals. So it's just a lot of people's jaws dropped when they came to visit the site because it is wide open. I mean, I think we could put up a basketball hoop and shoot some hoops out there since it's Sweet 16 time now. But yeah, Dwight, I don't know. You have anything to add?
I think you pretty well covered it there. I mean, this was the projects that Chris was talking about was kind of our first adventure into the building side of things and steel structures. And we're still, kind of investigating that, whether we're going to be a supplier of the steel buildings. But we definitely believe that going forward, the industry, like Chris says, we're putting 10, 12, 13,000 animals under 1 or 2 structures. I think that is going to have a big play in the future for those size of buildings. You're going to have to look at going towards a steel structured type building.
Well, guys, this has been a great discussion on the future of swine construction and equipment. Before we wrap up, do you guys, Chris, Dwight, any final thoughts?
I would just say that things are picking up and looking positive for the swine industry going into 2025 here, and look forward to visiting with more and more integrators and growers out there over the coming year.
Yeah, thanks again, Rachel, for the opportunity to do this and share with all of your people or your followers the advantages and things that we're coming out with here at AP to help with remote access, with information, and different things. We've got a lot of new items coming, and we look forward to introducing people to that here in the near future.
Well, for those wanting to learn more about Ag Property Solutions and AP, they are hosting a Sale-abration event. That's kind of a tongue twister. On April 11th and 12th at Ag Property Solutions office and showroom in Emmitsburg. There's going to be live demos, warehouse sales, food, drinks, and giveaways. So be sure to check out Ag Property Solutions Facebook event page for more details. Thanks again, you guys, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.